Oyate wankan tanka onchimaye yelo. Oyate zanichi pelo. Heya hoye wa helo hey oy.
Welcome back to Native Strength. I'm Hyapatia Lee, Cherokee Blessed Woman. Life is a complicated experience, and it may not start with a beating heart. Many people accept reincarnation to be a fact. Dr. Jim Tucker at the University of Virginia has studied over 2,500 children who had memories of past lives. Most of these children were living in families that did not embrace reincarnation, but were Catholic, Protestant, or Jewish, and believed in heaven and hell. These children reported memories that included historical facts, as well as other people and former family members from their past life that could be found in records and photos. Many cases were verified by documents that proved what the children were remembering actually took place. The children were carefully monitored to be sure that they had never been exposed to anything that would have given them knowledge of these things they reportedly remembered from their past lives. After studying so many children with memories of past lives and confirming facts associated with those lives, Dr. Jim Tucker concluded that reincarnation was real. Traditional natives of North and South America, Hawaii, and Australia believe in reincarnation as well. I was taught that during the time in between our lives, we reflect on what we have done during our time in the physical world. We process what we learned, what mistakes we made, and the events of our most recent life. We reflect on our behavior in order to gain a clearer perspective. We can see where we went wrong, where we were able to correct our mistakes, and where we chose to blame others and remain stagnant in our growth. Once we have thoroughly examined our life and put it in perspective with our other past lives, we are able to see our soul holistically. We can see all the lessons we have learned and how far we have yet to go in our evolutionary process. Life is primarily for doing. The other side is for examining, processing, and planning. Our soul is only able to make progress when in the physical form. That's why the wise medicine men and women who were able to reflect on such things in their elder years took great care to make sure others had access to this knowledge. The teaching of the circles of life is one of the tools that can help us navigate through life with a clearer understanding of where we are going. We are born with everything we need to meet the challenges of this lifetime. This means that we have the potential to successfully learn these lessons because we are born with the character and abilities that will be needed to realize them in this life, but we must apply ourselves. And this is our core personality. As a child, we learn right from wrong, and we are taught the proper way to behave. This will mimic the society and culture in which we live and often places restrictions on our core personality. For example, if one were born female in the 1500s and given a core personality consumed with a desire for learning physics and astronomy, this would likely have been socially unacceptable. Similarly, a man born in the same era who preferred devoting his time to caring for his family by providing meals made with love, supporting their endeavors by assisting with daily needs, and making sure that the home was properly maintained, would have likely found he was ostracized or viewed with suspicion. The family and culture we're born into begin to sculpt us into the person they believe we should become. Now, some sculptors see a rock in its raw form and decide what they'll carve out of it. But a true artist sees the figure inside trying to get out. The artist chips away the part of the stone that is not its core. We may have known people in our life who brought out our true nature. We have also known those who chose to make us into what they thought we should be, with little regard to our individual passions. As we grow, we may try to appease these people by changing who we are to fit in and conform. The part of us that is deemed unacceptable is buried, and we try to forget it exists. Some never discover their core self. Others find that the changes their family or society demand are impossible to accommodate, and they rebel. We either become a victim or a victor. We change ourselves to pacify others, or we let our light shine. Those who are responsible for sculpting our personality are called our image makers. We imitate their behavior and forget our core personality. It's important to note that the image makers are simply trying to help us fit in with the world in which we live. They want us to be accepted and appreciated by society. They are doing the best that they can with the limited tools that they have left over from their own sculpting. When we allow our image makers to sculpt away the very tools we need for our path in this lifetime, we have done ourselves a grave disservice. We are especially vulnerable when we are bullied in this state, as we have been denied our most valuable resources. It is important to remember that we chose the time and place of our birth based on what our soul needed for its evolutionary advancement. These choices include the lessons our image makers can provide. Now, that does not mean we are to follow them blindly. It means they will provide the circumstances necessary for our evolution. If our soul needs to learn the lesson of independent thinking, we will not be born to image makers who think like our core personality. That would defeat the purpose. As we grow, we are shaped by our image makers. We create a mirror of self-reflection, an image of who we think we are based on what we have been taught. This mirror of self-reflection will show us many limitations and boundaries. It is not our core personality, but rather the person the image makers would have us become. When we see this reflection of ourself, we realize that it's not who we are at the core. We are aware that we have had to conform to fit in, and this makes us feel as though we are unworthy of love in our original form. It's from the sadness of this self-reflection that the needy child is created. This part of us is always in need of approval, acceptance, and recognition from the image makers. This is what makes so many people feel like it's impossible to live alone or to follow their dream without the help of another. We doubt ourselves and feel as though we're not worthy of love in our core form. Every one of us experiences this. No one had parents able to make us feel loved and accepted in our original form. All of our image makers had to make us acceptable to society or face the consequences. If they had not made us conform to the status quo, adhere to the rules and regulations of the dominant culture, people in positions of power would have taken us away from them and put us in the arms of people who would. Our parents or caregivers would have lost us to people in positions of power. They were simply following the rules and doing the best that they could. Now, all of this conforming and internal subconscious grieving for the parts of us that we have had to deny causes us to lose energy and vitality. Our health suffers, and we grow old before we even know who we really are and of all that we are capable. We fall into a pattern of reacting to events in our life and repeatedly replaying the painful past over and over again. We remind ourselves of our failures, solidify our perceived limitations, and take on the role of our image makers. We may tell ourselves how impatient and fickle we are. After all, our mother always said so. We must crack the mirror of self-reflection that shows us only the needy child in order to see the true core self. When we shatter this mirror, we will have a clear view of who we truly are and how we were sculpted. Once we become aware of all those who had a hand in sculpting us, we can see the ways our core personality may have been lost. We can begin to question what has been discarded and determine if we would be better off taking back some of our original core personality. We use love and understanding to be aware of what led our image makers to their sculpting decisions, and we hold no animosity because they are on their own path doing the best that they are capable of at any given time. Our time is not to be spent condemning others for their actions. Instead, we should be concentrating on recreating our core personality in preparation for following our sacred dream. And when done correctly, this will take up all our time and there will be no energy left over for judging others. Now, we can either choose to ignore our original self or our sacred dream and forever bury that part of us, or we do the opposite. We pursue what we know to be right for us. Sometimes in life, we must figuratively or even literally leave those we love who do not fully support us in our goal to live life to the fullest. This medicine story is about what happens when we can no longer ignore this calling in our hearts. There once was a mouse. He was a good little mouse. He kept his nose close to the ground like all good mice should. He spent his days collecting and storing grain for his people. But one thing bothered him, though. He kept hearing a roaring in his ears. Now and then he would ask his friends if they also heard this roar in their ears, but they never did. They didn't understand what little Jumping Mouse was talking about, and the more he brought it up, the stranger they looked at him. He decided to ask some of his other friends, the quail that visited every day, to see if they knew what was making this sound. They investigated a bit, but quickly reported back that they had seen nothing. He asked the rabbit with the big long ears. Surely she had heard this sound. But the rabbit said it was best to stay close to home and not worry about it. Little Jumping Mouse decided never to speak of it again. He tried to ignore the sound. But there came a day when it simply was no longer possible. We all have a calling that no one else can hear. It may be our life's work, our true mission, how we are to give away to the world, or simply who we truly are. We may try to fit in with the rest of society and follow the path that they have chosen for us. But if it doesn't sing in harmony with the calling in our ears, the day will come when we can no longer ignore this dissonance. He finished his mouse duties and decided to follow the sound in his ears. As he grew further and further away from his people, the roaring became louder and clearer. It became so loud that it filled his head with sound, and he could hardly hear himself think. Once we finally let ourselves follow our true self after denying it for so long, we may find that we cannot push it to the background any longer. It's as if we are obsessed. We can't think of anything else. Little Jumping Mouse followed the sound until he saw a parting in the trees and discovered the river for the first time. He had never seen water moving like this. The river ran as far as he could see from left to right. Now and then he saw things he was familiar with floating by, small twigs and leaves. His eyes came to rest on a frog at the water's edge. The river is knowledge. We see things we are familiar with in a new way when we have knowledge. The frog could see that Little Jumping Mouse's eyes were wide, and he was overwhelmed at the sight of the river. If you think that's something, bend down real low, then jump up as high as you can and look over there in that direction. Little Jumping Mouse was eager to see what was over there, so he did as he was instructed. When he reached the full height of his jump, he looked in the direction the frog had pointed, and he saw the most incredible sight. It was a beautiful mountain standing majestically in the distance. Little Jumping Mouse had never seen anything so big and glorious, and he wondered what it would be like to be on that mountain, to see what was below from that height, to know the other beings that lived there. And then Little Jumping Mouse fell unceremoniously into the river water with a splat. He quickly scampered to the dry land and shook himself off. "You tricked me," he cried. "No," said the frog. "It is just water, and you have had a glimpse of greatness." Sometimes we have to be tricked into learning. A trickster is often seen as a coyote, but they can come to us in any form. We may think that what has happened is bad, but with time and reflection, we realize we have been tricked into growing. Often in life, something good comes from something bad, We may never have made a move to a better job, relationship, or living environment if things had not gone horribly wrong in the one that we had left behind. Little Jumping Mouse shook himself off and went back to his people, anxious to tell them about all the wonderful things that he had seen. When his friends and family saw him, they were confused. He was all wet. It had not rained. The only time that they had ever seen a mouse who was all wet, if it had not rained, was when an animal had tried to eat him and then spat him back out because he tasted bad. They wondered if perhaps Little Jumping Mouse was poison. Little Jumping Mouse tried to explain about the river and the mountain, but they had never seen such things and didn't understand. They remembered how he was always asking about sounds that no one else heard, and they began to talk about how strange he was. After some thought, Little Jumping Mouse decided he would leave those who had treated him so badly and go out in search of the beautiful mountain. He left his village and traveled under the brush, guided by the roar in his ears and the vision in his heart. When we have a dream, or begin to recognize our true self, it's often doubted and misunderstood by others. We either decide to let the dream die, or we go pursue it. We leave our comfort zone behind as we venture out towards our sacred dreams. As Little Jumping Mouse traveled on the prairie, he found the brush getting sparse. When he ran out in the open, he worried the eagles and hawks could see him. He was afraid they would swoop down and grab him for their meal. Mice can only see well what is close to their whiskers, so he couldn't tell if the birds were coming closer. Every speck he saw in the sky he imagined was probably an eagle waiting to eat him. He ran as fast as he could from scrub brush to clumps of weeds and to small trees for a short rest to catch his breath. As we go through our daily lives, we find ourselves rushing from one small bit of sustenance to another. We fear a catastrophe awaits us around every turn. Little Jumping Mouse found himself in a beautiful place. There were many different kinds of plants that he had never seen before. It seemed like each was more beautiful than the next. He could see the mountain in the distance, but the beautiful, colorful flowers mesmerized him. Sometimes we may find ourselves in a comfortable spot with our goal in close view. We may be satisfied to stay here for a long time, or even for the rest of our lives. In native culture, this phenomenon is symbolized by the hummingbird or the dragonfly. After many days, Little Jumping Mouse remembered his dream, and he set out again. After some time, he came upon a very large animal laying down and breathing heavily. Now, he had never seen a being like this before, and he got the feeling that it was ill. He ran behind the bush that was nearby to study the animal for a bit. After a while, he came out and spoke. "Brother, are you okay? I've never seen a being like you before." "I'm a buffalo, and I'm very ill. In fact, I'm going to die." Little Jumping Mouse felt very sorry for the buffalo. "I wish there was something that I could do to help," he offered. "You're such a magnificent being. I don't want you to die." "That is very kind of you, but the only thing that can save me is the eye of a mouse, but I don't even know what a mouse is." Little Jumping Mouse quickly hid behind the bush. It was a good thing the buffalo didn't know he was a mouse. Whew! After a long time of watching the buffalo suffer, Little Jumping Mouse began to think. He had 2 eyes, and he could probably get along all right with just one. He felt sorry for the buffalo. He came back out from behind the bush and spoke to him. "Brother Buffalo, I am a mouse. I really hate seeing you suffer like this, and if there was some way that I could give you my eye so that you could be healed, I would, but I don't know how." And just then, his eye popped out, and the buffalo rose to his feet, strong and healed. "Little Brother Mouse, you did not have to give away to me, but you did. I know what you want. You want to go to the mountain. I will take you there. Run under me and be careful of my hooves. I will protect you from the hawks and eagles. They will not see you under me. The buffalo is a spirit guide. When we give away our way of seeing, our way of perceiving things, we open up new ways of achieving our goals. It's not until we are willing to let go of the vision we have of how it must be that we see other options of how it could be. Little Jumping Mouse ran safely under the sure-footed buffalo. Together, they made it all the way to the base of the mountain, where they stopped to rest. Little brother, I have taken you as far as I can. I am an animal of the plains, and my hooves cannot climb mountains. You will be safe here under the brush. I must return to my people. Thank you again for your sacrifice. The buffalo turned and headed back towards the plains, and Little Jumping Mouse began his journey again on his own. He ran under the bushes until there were greater distances between them, and he had to pace himself, taking great care to run quickly from cover to cover to avoid being spotted by eagles. He was halfway up the mountain now. As he rushed to another safe place, he noticed something large. It was an animal lying down, and it seemed to be hurt. After some time, Little Jumping Mouse decided to investigate. "Excuse me, I've been watching you from behind the bush, and I've never seen an animal like you. Are you all right?" "I am a mountain lion, and I am very ill. I am going to die. There's nothing that can be done to save me. The only thing in the world that could heal me is the eye of a mouse. But I don't know what a mouse is. It's a good day to die." Little Jumping Mouse quickly disappeared behind the bush. "Oh my," he thought. "She is such a beautiful being, but I only have one eye left. I can't give away my only eye. I will be completely blind." And he started to shake. After much time had passed, he began to think, "I am very far away from my home. I'll never go back there. I've come to the mountain. I've fulfilled my dream. What does it matter if I see any more? I've seen so much already. I've come so far. And this mountain lion deserves to live. How majestic she is. Beautiful mountain lion, I am a mouse, and I wish I could give you my eye." As soon as he finished speaking the words, he was blind. He heard the mountain lion rise to her feet and shake her fur. "Brother Mouse, you did not have to give away to me. I will take you to the lake on top of the mountain. I will cover you with my body, and the eagles will not see you on our journey to the top." Again, we must let go of every vision we had of how our dream must be fulfilled before we can have the help of our spirit guides. At the top of the mountain, Little Jumping Mouse came to the lake. I must leave you now, Little Jumping Mouse, for I am a spirit guide and I have others to guide. Little Jumping Mouse sat by the lake. He could feel the sun warming his fur. The wind gently moved his whiskers, and he could hear the fish splash, and he was very happy indeed. However, he never forgot about the eagles, who could now see him clearly in the open, so he wasn't surprised when he heard the caw and the flapping of the wings. He felt the eagle hit. Then Little Jumping Mouse saw a bit of light. There was a blur, and he rubbed his eyes, and things became clearer. He looked into the lake and was surprised by what he saw. It was that same frog from the river, and the frog said, if you think that was something, bend down real low and jump up real high. That's what started this whole thing. Trust me. So, Little Jumping Mouse bent down real low and then jumped up real high, and he kept going up and up and up. And he looked back down at the frog, who said, didn't you know? You are an eagle now. It can be just when we think we are dying that we find our wings.